Okay, good to see you, Aaron Khadida from Magen חירות. You're right now in Toronto. Tell me, what happened in the last few days?
There's been some crazy stuff going on in Toronto. There's been some shootings. A couple, as you know, we've had a few locations shot up, Jewish-owned businesses, synagogue. A lot of threats being placed to the Jewish community right now. It just seems like as soon as this war or rescue mission begun, it just decided to pop off all over the place right now.
So, as a person that you dedicate your whole life into security of the Jewish community in Toronto, do you feel there's an escalation, let's say, if you compare it to the situation a year ago?
Yes, there's absolutely an escalation right now. Of course, they're going to have their detractors that don't want peace in Iran, and the Iranian people more than anybody right now deserve to have peace in their country and have this Islamic regime thrown out. And there are going to be people that refuse to believe that that's going to be the case moving forward. So they're going to be attacking worldwide, as we're seeing in Toronto and Texas, all over the place. It's
Yeah.
happening already.
Yeah.
I am surprised that it's happening this quickly. And honestly, it infuriates me because by now, after everything that we've been through in the Jewish community, you'd think law enforcement would have a good handle on it by now.
You know what surprises me is that Toronto is like a huge network of CCTV cameras. If you go and, excuse me for the word, but if you go and, urine in a park, you get a ticket. They see everything. How come they don't see those terrorists that are shooting at the Jewish businesses? How do you explain
I mean,
this?
that's a good question. There are traffic cameras on various areas and poles, on top of poles, but they don't rely on those for surveillance. For surveillance, they rely on the specific address, the location, the venue. They rely on their cameras. And look, truth be told, they get the footage. They know the type of vehicles that are pulling up. They know the color of the vehicles. They know what time it's happening. But these guys are wearing masks and they're disguised and they have stolen license plates. So, I mean, you know, the police can only do so much. I mean, they're trying. They're absolutely trying, but they can only do so much.
Right. Israel's strongest security points is intelligence, and they're very good at getting to the terrorists before they go into action. I think this is something that should be implemented in Canada as well. We don't have to look for them after they're doing it. They should try and find those shooters before. I mean, they're probably talking about it in the mosques. They're talking about it in social media. This is not a secret. Just the other day, a mosque in Toronto glorified martyrs, which kind of gives motivation to potential terrorists. So, do you think it's being implemented to find the people before they go to do what they do?
So I believe what you're talking about is preventative intel, and as opposed to reactionary. And we're reacting when there's an attack as opposed to stopping it before it happens, like we do in Israel. And of course, that should be the case. It 100% should be the case. We have our intelligence divisions in Canada. I'm sure they're inundated with work. Unfortunately, it's a big domino effect, right? So you allow all the wrong people into a country. Now you've
Yeah.
got a lot of problems, and you've got a lot of investigating that needs to be done, and a lot of surveillance and so on. So it's stretching our resources very, very thin. And yes, you're right. We should know about these things before they happen. So, in my opinion, we need more resources to dedicate towards intelligence services and to help them with that. And the public can also help with that because, you see something, you say something, you hear something, you say something. So instead of being reactionary after the fact, when God forbid 20 people are blown up or whatever, let's get to it before it happens. And in a lot of cases in Canada, to their credit, they have done that. They've stopped attacks before they've happened, but their resources are stretched very thin, and the federal government, wants to put their money into God knows what, as opposed to intel services.
Aaron, today Prime Minister Carney said, and this is after I'll ask it again. A few days ago, Prime Minister Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, said that he stands behind Israel and the United States in preventing Iran from reaching a nuclear weapon. But today, this morning, he kind of flipped back and he said that the United States and Israel did not get an approval from both Canada and the UN. I mean, how do you explain this?
I mean, somebody's pulling his strings, is how I explain it. His true heart said 2 days ago that, it's great that everyone's going in and getting rid of the Islamic regime. His voter base, called him and said, we don't like what you said and you need to retract that. And that's the only way to explain it. There's no other reason. A person in that position doesn't change their mind on something that big in 48 hours without serious influence. And honestly, anybody that's a human being, let alone a politician, anybody that's a human being has to see what the Iranian people have suffered over 47 long years under the Islamic Republic, and should be not only behind the rescue mission and toppling the Islamic regime, but should be offering any services, any help, any support that Israel and the US would require. And why didn't they go to the UN, and why didn't they go to Canada? Why should they go to Canada? What do they need to go to Canada for? What's Canada going to offer? The 4 jets that we have somewhere in a base? Like,
Canada doesn't give any support to this operation, not to Israel, not to Iran, to nobody.
Right. You've got our military, the IDF, one of the strongest militaries in the world, and that produces devastating results. And you've got the USA, strongest military in the world again. So
and Admiral Cooper just said this morning, Admiral Cooper, he's the commander of all this operation in the Middle East on behalf of the United States Army. He just said this morning that the 2 strongest air forces in the world, the American and the Israeli, are in full control of Iranian sky. And it came from,
right.
A U.S. admiral.
Right. So exactly to my point, you put those two resources together, and you're going to end up with whatever result you want to, achieve. If you want to achieve the Islamic regime being toppled, it's going to be toppled. And the Iranian people deserve it and need it. And look, how can any country, any leader of any country possibly sit in his office and go on TV and say, I don't agree with what's going on in Iran?
Macron said it yesterday as well, that he cannot support this.
Knowing they slaughtered tens of thousands of people, innocent people, because they were simply asking for freedom. How can you possibly align with that? As a human being, I'm not asking as a politician or as a country or as a government entity. I'm speaking right to on a humanitarian level. If you don't mind seeing tens of thousands of people being slaughtered, then you have bigger problems and you need somebody to talk to, in my opinion.
I agree. And talking about politicians, even local politicians that we have in Thornhill, we have a Jewish member of parliament, Mrs. Melissa Landsman. And Melissa's very good, and we support her and everything, and she's always everywhere, especially before the elections. But I don't know, I feel that she's gone silent in the last few days. A part of posting in Facebook and Twitter, what's your perspectives about this? Do you think she's doing enough as, she's in parliament? Because if we look at the past 4 years, the situation of the Jewish community has just deteriorated. The security in the last few days, the shootings everywhere. What's your perspectives about our elected officials, especially in our community? Are they
Listen,
doing enough?
I think that Melissa does a great job. She does whatever is in her power to do. And, you're saying she's been silent over the past few days. I mean, even Melissa's allowed to have a vacation if that's the case. But at the end of the day, have our politicians done enough? That's a great question.
That is the
Our
question.
politicians are trying to do enough. The politicians who are pulling the strings, who are in charge, are not allowing our politicians to do enough. That's my opinion of it.
What do you mean? Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean the
Well,
politicians
look,
in charge are not allowing, who's not allowing Melissa to do anything? Or
if
others, not
Melissa
just
tries,
Melissa. Melissa is just an example, but who's
no, no,
not
of
allowing
course.
them?
So if an MP wants to implement a policy, they've got people they've got to go to get it approved. So now that we know that the Liberal government is in charge, we know the Liberal government is running the agenda. They're one or two seats away from a majority running the House. So at the end of the day, things are very, very difficult for conservative politicians to get anything pushed through. So, they're trying to do what they can.
Bills
I'm
about immigration, bills for the Jewish community, the opposition can still propose.
Of course. And look, we've gotten the bubble zone passed for sanctuaries, which was a huge one, and that was spearheaded by our politicians. We've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline that they're trying to do. And, God willing, one day soon we'll have a conservative government in place that can actually say something and be able to do it because there's no roadblocks against them every 2 feet. So
Right.
I mean, I know because I know these people personally, and they would love nothing more than to sign a bill and have it passed. But every time they do, it's block after block after block, and bills that you would think would be the easiest thing to pass, where anybody who's illegal in the country gets deported by next week.
That
Blocked,
should be bipartisan.
right? Jail, not bail.
Jail not
Blocked.
bail. Yeah, like the
What?
policy in the U.S. Um, Aaron, last message, last question. You're right now in the car. Where are you heading? Tell us a little bit.
I'm heading to the location, one of the locations that was shot up. I'm going to analyze their security and see what I can do to perhaps advise them on getting better apparatuses in place so that, God forbid this happens again, we're a lot more prepared for it.
Okay, and as a great supporter of Israel, a true brother, what is your message to our viewers, especially the Israeli viewers that are watching right now? What is your message from Toronto?
My message is always the same. Guys in the IDF, be careful, watch yourselves, know that the whole world, every Jew in the diaspora loves you, supports you, will give anything to help you, and we're always praying for you. And Israel itself, that's my life is Israel, and God bless everybody within Israel. And as always, Am Yisrael Chai.
Amen.